heavy,
bored.
But let's start with the very first thing. So the introductory note. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. And it goes into, it's 3 paragraphs long, but whatever. It says a lot of nothing. But here, Turtle Island, the old/new name for the continent, based on many creation myths of the people who have been living here for millennia, and reapplied by some of them to quote North America in recent years, as if that's not the proper name, right? North America. I don't recognize the name. Okay, I'll stop making fun of it. Also, an idea found worldwide, so it's not just this name for the native populations of the Americas, but it's also an idea found worldwide of the earth or cosmos even. So we keep getting broader and broader. Earth, cosmos, sustained by a great turtle or serpent of eternity. And this is, of course, referring to mostly the Native American creation myths, and those vary from tribe to tribe, right? If you don't know anything about Native American culture, and obviously a lot of us know or understand the horrors that happened when when the Americas were being conquered by Europeans and things like that. We understand that kind of colonialist horrors. But, depending on which tribe you ask, like I think some in the kind of northeastern part of the country had this kind of Turtle Island thing idea as well. I think Stephen King even uses it in some of his stuff because it's kind of a very old creation myth in the Native American populations. And I guess he's speaking of Native Americans mostly on the West Coast, and I believe they had a similar. And this it varied. There was always a creator, right? They go to the Romans, the Greeks, the Christian. Everybody has a creator myth, and a lot of Native Americans use Turtle Island. So, okay, I get that, right? So the title Turtle Island is merging the Earth, and my question is, what do we think about this? And first, I thought, okay, eye roll, right? This is the introductory note. This is the first fucking page, and I'm already kind of going, okay, you're stretching it a little bit. It keeps getting broader and broader in the first paragraph. It's not just the Earth, it's the cosmos, it's everything. Okay, yeah, okay. But then it occurred to me that the tradition of the Romantics, so I started thinking, like I said in the monologue, this kind of tradition of the Romantic poets. And I tried to get a better attitude about it. To engage fairly, that Snyder may have seen himself as continuing this kind of romantic tradition through the kind of mediocrity of the beat writers, right? As he gets lumped in there a lot. And listeners, you can go back and listen to, episode 27, where we talk about Allen Ginsberg's masterpiece, How, that collection of poems, and how fucking good it is, and how fucking good Ginsberg is or was as a poet. And how I believe Ginsberg to be the only beat worth remembering in terms of his contributions to the field. I think he contributed so much. He's one of the most important literary figures of the 20th century, and all the others are not, including Gary Snyder here. But okay, so we move on. I found this a little corny, Turtle Island. I felt a little overly simplistic and a little over-romanticized. I think it's doing more in Snyder's head than it is for a reader. And if you look at some of the cover art on this as well, listeners, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of different kind of Native American symbols, ancient kind of Buddhist kind of symbols from kind of the more Eastern philosophies. Again, the Eastern philosophies were having a huge comeback in the kind of 60s and 70s, right? There was a huge movement with kind of a Buddhist mentality, monk mentality, these kind of ancient wisdom, right? This kind of respect for ancient wisdom that helped civilizations thrive at certain times in history, right? And we're kind of so prosperous now we can go back and start looking over these kind of cultural ideas and beliefs that helped something like the eastern part of the world thrive and become empires and conquer all the islands in the Pacific and things like that throughout, last couple centuries and before that even. So that's the introductory note. It goes on and on and on. And again, just to give you an idea, before I move on from the introductory note of where this is headed, the next paragraph is a name, that we may see ourselves more accurately on this continent of watersheds and life communities, plant zones, physiographic provinces, culture areas, following natural boundaries. The, quote, USA, in air quotes, as if that's not real, right? And its states and counties are arbitrary and inaccurate impositions on what is really here. And I'm just like, okay. Right. These imaginary lines don't exist. Why? Well, because Snyder says so. And that's it. The last paragraph. The poems speak of place and the energy pathways, whatever that is, that sustain life. Each living being is a swirl in the flow, a formal turbulence, a, quote, song. The land, the planet itself, is also a living being, at another pace. And then he goes into Anglos, black people, Chicanos, and others beached up on these shores all share such views as the deepest levels of their old cultural traditions, African, Asian, or European. Hark again to those roots, to see our ancient solidarity, and then to the work of being together on Turtle Island. So that's the introductory note. And again, if you hear what I'm saying, especially in that last paragraph, it's clearly tapping into kind of that, like the revolutionary kind of movement from the 1960s. So this was a huge moment of change where we were understanding, right, we have more in common. There's a kind of an ancient solidarity he's referring to, and, this kind of, common humanity, right? Like this is the thing that was being preached at the time. And you'll see on like the photograph and stuff like that, like this author photo. He's rocking ponytails and leather vests and that kind of hippie fashion and ideas. And there's actually a huge moment for cults and stuff like that at that time. If anybody's interested, it's actually very fascinating what the hippie movement's like.
Inner.
Resources. American resources.
Being bored?
Some activities are intentional, right?
It shows such a lack of gratitude for life. Bored. I aspire to boredom, I should say.
Bored. Heavy.
I am heavy.
Bored.
Has you the night sweats and the day sweats, pal? Pal, I do.